This is the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we teach you the proven methods to grow your seven-figure business to 10 million and beyond. Please welcome your host, Brett Gilliland.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm thrilled that I get to introduce yet another amazing guest. Every week, we're bringing people on here who have been where you're trying to get. They have real lessons learned, and they just get to share some of their amazing experiences in their own entrepreneurial journeys. So today, I get to introduce you to Mac Lackey. Mac's an American entrepreneur who has started, scaled, and sold 6 companies. Mac and his companies have been featured on CNN, the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Business, North Carolina, USA Today, and the New York Times. So he's kind of been there, done that, as it were. And today he's involved in soccer in Spain. And so he's joining us from Spain, where he has a soccer team. And I'll let him say more about that. But welcome, Mac. Thanks for coming to the show today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Spain, and then we'll get into some of your lessons as an entrepreneur.
No, absolutely. Well, I used to describe my life as existing in kind of 2 big buckets. And bucket number 1 was my kind of upbringing and youth. And every part of that journey was about soccer. You know, I started playing soccer when I was about 4 years old. I fell in love with it really early, played my whole life, played through college, played professionally. It was kind of all of my life's goals and dreams were soccer related. Then after I stopped playing, I became an entrepreneur, started my first company actually in the first quarter of 1995, right after Netscape launched the commercial web browser. I launched an internet company. So those 2 buckets kind of existed separately. Some of my companies were soccer related. I continue to go back to that theme because I had a passion for it. But then later in life, one of my, I guess you would call it bucket list opportunities was to buy a professional soccer team. And so last year we acquired a team in southern Spain, which has been a really, really fun journey thus far. And then my wife and I decided to move to Barcelona part-time so that it would be easier for me to get back and forth to the team. And plus Barcelona is an amazing city. So
yeah, not bad to hang out in Barcelona every year for however many months you do that. That's amazing. So you're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, that term gets thrown around quite a bit, but you've started and sold many companies. As you think back on your experience and knowing that this podcast is really focused on going from that early 7 figures to beyond, there's a common sticking point or a set of scaling challenges that happen to most businesses, regardless of the industry or business model. If they're going to grow with a team of people, there's some complexity that starts to build, and it hangs a lot of entrepreneurs up. So you've done this a few times or multiple times. I'd love to just have you reminisce with us a little bit on maybe the first time you hit that 7-figure mark and experience some of those stalling things that happen where you're just like, wait a minute, we were growing and now we're starting to get stuck a little bit. I don't know if you remember much about that, but I'd love to have you comment.
Yeah, no, I remember so many of them like they were yesterday, and I look back over a 26-year career as an entrepreneur, and of course, it was an amazing journey in so many ways, rewarding on so many levels, but certainly with its challenges and lots of mistakes that I made. You know, our first company, we started in our mid-20s. We weren't really, that was our first entrepreneurial venture. I did not have a tech background, and we were starting a tech company. You know, we had a partner who was a self-taught engineer, very talented guy, but we were really learning as we were going. But we also had this amazing timing because our macro thesis was the internet was going to change everything. And in hindsight, that's so obvious. But at the time, I had a lot of really smart people telling me, I was crazy, I was wasting my time, all those things. And so we had the benefit of the growth of the internet, which fueled a lot of our opportunities. But the reality is, when the business went from, an idea, a startup on a, sheet of paper effectively, to 10 plus employees, Fortune 500 clients, millions in revenue, all very quickly, it was drinking from a fire hose. And with the benefit of hindsight, I would say the biggest thing that we missed early on was, we hired our friends. We hired people who we knew, that we trusted, that were close to us, that we could convince maybe to leave a good job to take risk with us. And of course, those people were amazing to work with, but in many cases, it was amplifying the fact that we as founders did not have experience. And so we hired people to run sales that didn't have experience, and people to run engineering that were just getting started in their tech journey. And so I think some of the biggest challenges we had as a company was really just lacking the experience. And I think you said it in the intro. I tell people all the time now, when you hire for a role, you want to hire someone who's already been where you're trying to go, ideally more than once. And so if you're trying to build a sales organization, you don't want to hire a good salesperson. You want to hire someone who has already built successfully a sales organization. We didn't do that at all. So we had a lot of learning on the job, lots of mistakes. But because of, I think, some of the macro decisions we made, ultimately it worked out well. We had an 8-figure exit in our 20s, set the foundation for a career as an entrepreneur. I fell in love with the high growth aspects. I fell in love with building things. All of those were highly reinforced, but we certainly had our struggles navigating to the first outcome.
Well, listening to you describe hiring friends and family, and people who are close to you, right, that you knew, that is a common thing that happens for entrepreneurs. I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. So when you realize that, oh, wait a minute, these people haven't ever done what we're trying to do. We haven't as founders, but now that's compounded by the fact that the people we're surrounding ourselves haven't done it either. That doesn't necessarily mean failure, doesn't necessarily mean disaster. You still moved forward, but maybe unpack for us a little bit some of the things that had to happen for you to move forward. Did you end up going outside and bringing in proven people, or did you just fumble along the way with your band of brothers, as it were, and figure it out as you go?
No, it's a great question. And it was really a key learning kind of moment for us, because we did have to go outside and find some experts. And I think one of the things that I'm so thankful I did it really early in my career is I had to get over the ego of hiring people who were more qualified and smarter and more pedigreed than I was. Mm-hmm. So, here I am, the founder and CEO, and I have to go out and hire people that are older, more experienced, smarter, went to the right schools, none of the things that I could really say. And that became a very repeatable, critical success factor for me. I mean, to the point that, mid to late career, I used to say, my only job as a founder is finding people smarter and better than me to sit at the table. I mean, like that's just what I did. And so I learned that. It served us incredibly well. It was uncomfortable because sometimes we had people that, knew a lot of things that we didn't. And it was an awkward kind of moment. We were also really young, but like I said, it became a critical success factor that I repeated for every subsequent business, every venture, everything I've done ever since then has been sort of on that idea of, I have to surround myself with people that are, have already been there, really experienced, really thoughtful, know what they're doing. And I have to be okay that they know more about a certain subject than I am. And I'm perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, it sounds like a super important lesson for you to learn. And it's good that you learned it early on and served you multiple times. So I want our listeners to really tune into that. You repeated it, but those people who have been where you're trying to go bring a lot of value to you, and when you're trying to figure things out. And I think early on, entrepreneurs, they're scrappy. They learn things, right? Like, oh, we got to figure out how to generate leads consistently, or we got to figure out how to fulfill this thing at a higher scale, more consistently, more, in a repeated sort of fashion. And so they're really good at figuring out the operational things. But it seems like once we get into, now we got to build this thing, we got to scale this thing. Some been there, done that know-how is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's a shortcut, if you will, to so much of the scale challenge that almost every business faces in some form or fashion. And what I mean by that is, part of it is who you hire, people that already have that experience. But in the case that you're a resource constrained, early stage, high growth company, startup, whatever the definition would be, sometimes you don't have the money to go hire someone that's come out of Anderson Consulting and has 10 years experience. So in my case, a lot of what we started to do is surround ourselves with advisors and mentors that kind of fit that same bucket of a really successful, been there, done that individual that we could lean on for guidance so that we didn't have to figure it out the hard way. And I've just designed so much of my life around that it's these days to me it's kind of masterminds. I'm still very focused. I own the soccer team, but I have a program trying to help founders create their first exit. And every part of that business, like talking about exits, is my life. I mean, I've done it my whole life, but how to build find customers online, do lead gen in a new kind of market, that's not something I had done. So I have to have an expert that I can lean on and say, hey, I don't want to figure this out the hard way. Tell me exactly what I need to do. Tell me exactly how to build this. And I think that's a formula that even really early stage, just hitting 7-figure kind of businesses that don't have the money can still build an impressive aligned board of advisors or mentors to the founders and entrepreneurs that can have the exact same impact without outlaying the dollars.
Really good, really good. So I don't want this to be a leading question, but I've found in talking with entrepreneurs that getting that experience is super valuable. But did you ever experience the I guess the situation where the person you were looking to for guidance was like too far down the path, like the stage of business that they were really well acquainted with that you wanted to be at was 2 or 3
Right.
stages beyond it. They didn't really know how to relate well to the stage you were in and help you guys at that stage.
Yes.
Did you ever experience that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, it continues to happen to this day. I think about like our soccer club. It's a 114-year-old club that we acquired, so it has an incredibly long history. But in a lot of ways, I still think of it as a startup because we're doing a lot of things for the first time. We're trying to bring a lot of innovations. And recently, we had this opportunity with our club to present to the local city council about some vision that we had for the stadium and the area. And so I went to someone who's kind of an advisor and said, hey, we have this opportunity. And I know he works with multi-billion-dollar sports franchises, and he had great advice and insights, but they were, spending $15,000 on videos, which would have exceeded our budget for the whole project, and that was just to present it, and so a lot of the larger organizations, they're used to having unlimited resources, capital, teammates, people that they can just assign to go do things. Whereas an early stage company may have 10 employees, everyone's wearing 3 or 4 hats. And so you can't just have a dedicated full-time person to work on one specific thing. So over the years, what I've tried to do is recognize that where there's a misalignment in terms of guidance or strategy, and just say, okay, well, the idea is right. What's the other way we could achieve it? And the example I just gave you, literally, I thought he had brilliant ideas about 3D videos and illustrations. We didn't have the budget to do that, certainly at the level that he was suggesting. But I went to some online resources, spent about $1,000, got some beautiful illustrations done, and a short kind of intro video, all for $1,000. So we achieved the objective, but with the mindset of a startup. And so I still think even those that are a little bit far removed from a 7 or 8 figure business can give you really valuable advice. You just have to kind of turn down the expectation of what's the reality of our resources and budgets and things like that.
Yeah, it's like you have to right size the wisdom that they're sharing, right? For your
Exactly.
sake. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. I'd like, if you don't mind, think over the six that was meant, the six businesses that were mentioned in the bio for you. Just collectively, if you were to start at that 7-figure space again, if you had like the top, I don't know, the top 2 or 3 takeaways for how to do this thing, how to do it effectively. I'm asking a poor question right now, Matt, but let me reframe it maybe a different way. As I think about all the business owners that I've interviewed or that I've worked with, there are patterns that they start to recognize. They're like, well, this is a key thing that I must do always in this situation, right? This is a key thing I must do always in this situation. And so if I could guide your thinking more towards your own development as a leader, because I think there's a transition that happens from entrepreneur to like confident CEO, right? There's a shift there.
Mm-hmm.
And then also anything in the business that had to change, whether there was some structure or some processes that you had to put in place that a smaller company didn't have to have, but in order to scale, we had to build some things to be able to do this at a larger scale.
Yeah, no, I think it's an important question. For me, there are a few things that come to mind very quickly. One of them, because I think every business at some level, unless it's a solopreneur, it really is about people. And we talked about hiring the right people earlier. Part of that for a lot of entrepreneurs and founders is also critically looking in the mirror and saying, what am I truly good at? And where's my contribution to the business? Stereotypical, entrepreneur in the critical path of everything: product design, sales, customer service, answering phone calls, taking out the garbage, right? And the reality is there are 2 or 3 things out of the list of 1,000 that I personally do well, and I think I'm probably better than most of my peers at. And that's it. There's 2 or 3 little things. So I need to get most of my time allocated to that to really help the organization. And I need to realistically look around me and say, the same thing has to happen with co-founders, leaders, VPs. They have to really lean into those 2 or 3 things they do well, and the other things have to be off their plate. So for me, that became, I think, obvious pretty early on. And I thankfully I was really quick to delegate and get things off my plate so I could focus on what I think I'm good at. But I've watched and advised a lot of entrepreneurs who are just hanging on for dear life to things that are just not their skill set, and really pretty much hamper the ability to scale. Because again, no business can scale with the founder in the critical path of everything. So one is kind of that. The second thing that I think is really important is, I used to always say great products don't win, great products with awesome distribution wins. And so how you get something to the market, whether it's a product or a service, I realized looking back over my career, or catalytic relationship that took our product to the market, not me hiring incremental more salespeople or more people doing marketing, but saying, who is the one company that if we partnered with them, they could automatically get us to the market? And that kind of distribution was probably the biggest thing outside of people that I could say led to scale for us across multiple companies. So I really, even when I'm thinking about a new idea now or advising someone on a early stage company, I'm always looking for, where's that leveraged distribution opportunity? And then the last thing, which is very much kind of what I've been doing over the last, 3 or 4 years, which is, when I looked back over my own companies and I took the time to really think about what went well, what mistakes I made, I found this really common thread that was surprising to me. And it was a point in time in every one of those 6 companies that I sold where things started to change, including scale. You could see the scale happening. And it was interestingly when we started to look at our company through the lens of a prospective buyer. We maybe weren't necessarily going to sell our company. Maybe we were going to raise money. Maybe we were going to try to sell it. But the minute we started to sort of look at our business and say, what would a prospective buyer think about this? is this a good product to launch? Is this a good new hire? Should I sign this lease or not? That lens became so clarifying for us. It wasn't the only decision, but it was one of the things that we started consistently asking. And so a lot of what I do today in my Exit DNA program is helping companies kind of create that option to exit in the future. But as you start to do that, all these other things start to happen. Like you inherently create more scale because things like the founder can't be involved in the critical path. Nobody wants to buy a business where the founder does everything. So it's good for exit, but it's also good for scale. And it helps the personal freedom of the founder. So that's been kind of I almost call it the super strategy. It's like helping founders and entrepreneurs look at their business from the outside through the eyes of a prospective buyer has been a really, really big part of what I think made a lot of our companies scale before we ultimately decided to sell them.
I've done a lot of interviews, Mac. I don't think anybody else has ever mentioned that. So I just want to like highlight it and call it out because I think it's genius and simple, right? Like who doesn't like something that's simple, but that's so impactful? And lots of us focus on, and rightfully so, focus on that client journey or that customer experience. Like, and we're always looking at our business or the fulfillment process or the product through the eyes of the customer. And that is so helpful. But when you put that lens of a prospective buyer on the machine that creates that experience, that is so clarifying. And that's the word you used. I loved it. Clarifying. Wow. So how would they perceive what we're doing here if they were the buyer? What would they think of this decision? Would this add value to the business overall? Would it take away from it? And that's so good. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm often looking for what's simple but adds value. I don't like complex formulas or things that require a lot of thinking. I like really simple and clarifying, and that's been a big one for me.
Yeah, well, that's hugely valuable. I wish I could like somehow highlight it all of our podcast episodes. Like, here's one, you got this one truth right here is amazing. And I skipped right over the leverage distribution. That's genius as well. But I just really liked that perspective of what would a buyer think of this? Not the customer, but the buyer of the business. And a lot of our people say, I'm not looking to exit or whatever. Like, that's not the point. The point is
exactly
outside perspective, see this as benefiting the business, hurting the business, or is like neutral or whatever. And where do we want to be spending our time and energy? That's really
and I think it's really important for entrepreneurs, founders, what you really want. And I say this most every day of my life is you want the option to exit, because if you have the option where people want to buy your business, they want to pay you a lot of money for it, everything short of that is now available to you. If you say, I don't want to sell it, but I'd like to raise growth equity, or I'd like to do a joint venture, or I'd like to recapitalize and take some chips off the table. If you've designed your business to have the option to sell it, all of those other things are now available to you. So like you said, it's a clarifying way to look at your business. And the more you turn those dials to get it ready, the more you've created optionality, which I think as an entrepreneur, that's the biggest thing we want. We don't ever want to be forced to sell it. We want the option. And we may never exercise it. We may just decide to keep this really well-oiled machine that we've created. Great. That's a great decision. But if you haven't created the option to exit, you kind of haven't really given yourself all of the variables and opportunities available to you.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Well, Mac, we could talk for a long time. At least I could listen to your lessons learned for a long time. As we go to wrap up here, people are going to be interested in, you mentioned Exit DNA. You could say more about that. I'm sure they would also love to connect with you on social or wherever you would direct them. How might people learn more about what you're doing or how to connect with you?
Oh, thank you. So yeah, Exit DNA or exitdna.com. You can read a little bit about what we do. There also is a now free ebook that I recommend every one of your listeners consider. It's exitdna.com/book. It's basically the 4 critical shifts that you need to make to create this optionality for your business. It's now free. I used to sell it. It's now, given away for free. And then personally, I have a site, maclackey.com, and sort of the same on all the socials at maclackey. So happy to interact and help any of your listeners that I can.
Well, thanks again for making time on a probably a beautiful afternoon in Barcelona for you. And it was really great to get to know you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, for everybody out there, please continue to like and share and subscribe and do all those things so that we can help as many seven-figure business owners as possible grow through these early seven-figure challenges that stick many of us. We want to help many people get the freedom in from their business in their life that they're looking for. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Elite Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Brett Gilliland. Be sure to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You may also want to visit our website, eliteentrepreneurspodcast.com, to find additional resources to grow your business from 7 figures to 10 million and beyond.